Welcome to this Transport Committee meeting of the Cecil Hawke's Bay District Council. We've already had meetings today, so we've already gone ahead of karakia to make sure that we stay on track today. Are there any apologies for this meeting? Declarations of conflicts of interest for today's meeting. Item 4, standing orders. The recommendation is that the following standing orders are suspended. 21.2 time limits on speakers, 21.5 members may only speak once, and 21.6 limits on the number of speakers, and we choose option C under section 22. Do I have a mover and a seconder for those standing orders? Councillor Anand and Councillor Greer. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Confirmation of minutes. This is from the 31st of October, not the 7th of November, as it says in our. Go around. That's the PE minutes, that's wrong. Transport Committee meeting from the 7th of November. Would somebody like to move that they be confirmed as true and correct? Councillor Byrne, seconded. Councillor Monahan. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Carried. We can straight into the draft land transport procurement strategy endorsement on page 8. And Mr. George. Mr. Sasha.
Absolutely fine.
Sasha.
Good afternoon. So what we have in front of you today is the draft land sport procurement strategy. It's still in draft as it requires endorsement from NZTA. So we've had a couple of sessions on this and workshops leading up to this and presented the original draft, which was the initial version. So we've had some good discussion on this. I'll just go through a brief summary and then we can take questions. So the reason that we do this is either every 3 years or when there's been a significant change in the procurement environment, NZTA requires us to go through a process of assessing our strategy and putting it forward for approval. We've obviously had some pretty significant impacts from Cyclone Gabrielle and obviously the construction industry has also had a number of impacts over the past kind of 2 to 3 years. The strategy allows councils to adapt their procurement process to achieve best value for money when utilising the NLTP. From when we forward the initial draft and sought feedback from contractors across the district, the main changes that we've had are updated broader outcomes to be more focused on the use of local suppliers. We've had changes to bundle 3 contracts based on feedback from the market. And we've also proposed an extension of 12 months to align with a period in time where other procurement activities aren't quite so, high across, at a national sense. So they're the main changes to the overall strategy. Obviously, it's a relatively significant document, and a number of you will have read it in detail. So I will move to questions from the floor on the strategy itself or anything else in the paper.
Questions for Mr. George? Councillor Anand?
I just only to say that I really enjoyed reading that sort of strategic alignment and how it fits in with other things and that sort of stuff. And I suppose Thrive really encompasses it all. But I think even this sort of a strategy and document also leads into community wellbeing, economic development, all of those other wider social strategies as well. So I don't know if that helps long term to show government that actually full well-beings are a part of every part of council business.
Yeah,
that's even a thing, but yeah, that was my only bit of thoughts and feedback.
thank you.
Yeah.
I just have a couple of suggestions, considering this is kind of the launching pad for a whole lot of other things that happen. The first one is that right at the front end, I think we should talk about this district council governance direction around transformation, delivery, accountability and governance. In that first background section, we don't say it until further into the document. I think we should be a bit more upfront about it. It has been a specific focus from this table now for more than 2 years. So that I think that would be helpful. The other thing is, and great to see the strategic outcomes. There's 3 things that I'd like to see. One is in the objectives about us getting governance better connected to land transport in particular and to outcomes. Is there a piece in here that should be specific about these, particularly master contractors, and the expectations for them to deliver data which is able to come to this table that brings them closer to us? So that was one thing. The second thing was in the major risks, we miss the and my documents just crashed. In the major risks, we miss the point of the fact that Waka Kotahi's annual approach to far rate setting makes a huge procurement risk for us in terms of security of pipeline. I think we should say that in the section on key risks, which is on page, remember? Page 11, page 23 of the agenda. And take every opportunity to reiterate that point everywhere that's possible, because they're actually holding back us able to have the most efficient procurement approach that we could through their behaviours, not ours. And the third thing is that we should take every opportunity throughout the whole document to set ourselves up for everything else we want to achieve when it comes to the maintenance contract, when it comes to traffic management, which is to acknowledge we're a low volume, low risk network. And as I went through the document, I kind of wrote it like half a dozen times. Whereas if we keep saying that, it gives us a really good launching pad for the new approach on the maintenance contract, which is maybe we're going to go to that place of removing the previous experience components, and it just creates a good space for us in that. So those are kind of the pieces of feedback to help it, to strengthen it. Governance reporting, low cost, low risk, and sorry, not low cost, low risk, low risk, low volume, and the key risk of the recovery decisions being annual from what. Other than that, I think it's great to see those strategic alignments coming through.
I'll just to you, Madam Chair, on the objectives in terms of bringing suppliers closer to council. I see that as being some form of governance that kind of sits across, operational governance that sits across the maintenance contract and long term, and is enduring and provides full visibility of performance at this table on a quarterly basis.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily physically having to have a separate governance entity, but at least a level of reporting that can be transplanted to here, where it's really clear that their KPIs are what we're holding them to account to as well. So if I think about the reporting that we do see in the land transport space, so I know, for instance, there's that weekly maintenance reporting with there's little photos and stuff and talking about what's happened every week. But that doesn't actually give us A, that's not a document for us, and B, it's not a document for the public, and it doesn't really give the accountability mechanisms. It just says what's been done, basically. Whereas what are the metrics for performance that actually you guys are holding to account on, but actually the string of accountability comes to this table too.
Maybe just through you, Madam Chair, just noting that that's a pillar in the service delivery excellence program, not just for land trans, but all of the contracts to get visibility. So that's an area we've really looked at risk assurance previously, but we're a business, but risk assurance and also the finance infrastructure and performance committee.
Is that something that we're going to have to be reporting back to NZTA on certain, to the government, certain metrics? They can come back to us as well, but we figure out our own way of looking at those and dealing with them, what we want to see.
The way I see it, Chair, is there will be specific performance requirements specified by the Transport Agency that we will need to report on. that would possibly sit under our value for money key results area. And then there will be our own that we will be and you will be really interested in, such as building local capability and capacity, for example, health and safety. So, yeah.
Keeping with the NZTA theme, their procurement strategy and ours seems to be quite aligned in the language being used. But in terms of how do you feel about have we got the right focus in here for the government's focus on economic development, value for money? Those two things, do you believe they're shown enough in here?
I've got a view on that, Madam Chair. In terms of those 5 KRAs, I believe they cover everything that we need to cover in terms of transport. What will alter over time, perhaps, is the key performance indicators that sit below those KRAs, the detailed measures. But in terms of those 5 big outcomes, I think they're enduring. It's pretty aligned, 90% plus aligned with the way the Transport Agency is going in terms of their procurement strategy for everything they do under transport.
Any further questions? Any comments, or would somebody like to move? So, and seconds. Would you like to speak to that?
Just to say that let's see that strategic alignment. Can we give me right to rubbish? Yeah, you will somewhere, but
That's noted.
Repeatedly noted. It's not actually written as such because it's a nice to have broader outcome, not an economic priority.
It's written on my arm.
Tattoo it here, yeah. Anything you'd like to add, Neil?
I know, just really great to see this change of approach. The challenge now to all of us is to follow through on it and everything that we do, both as governance and you guys as well. So that's the bit that I'm looking forward to. So great work.
Just one comment from my point of view. I totally agree, and I think it's really good that as long as we keep building those relationships with those smaller firms, so that we can keep that local in the, as we'll see in a procurement later on, that use of local. So, any further comments? Yeah, Deputy Mayor Anand, any? All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Great. There's anyone? Page 29, Cyclone Gabrielle recovery roading update.
Good afternoon, Chair, councillors. This afternoon, we're presenting our monthly Cyclone Gabrielle Land Transport Recovery Update. Take the report as read and just give you a brief summary, mainly on actually some of the more recent progress that we've made since the report was written. We are progressing nicely with our design and procurement of a recovery phase 2 and 3 sites, and we're underway with our tender evaluation, plan for contract awards on all of our sites before Christmas, and our design is planned for delivery by the 16th. That's next Monday. In addition to this, we're just working on wrapping up our emergency response funding, with the final claim being prepared to go into NZTA before Christmas. Other than that, happy to answer any questions.
Yes, thank you. Just reading through the report, I have one question on Hillside Bridge, Hillside Road project. There could be a delay due to engagement of the community. My headed in the report, maybe. My question was, did you have an indication when you may consult with the local community about this new Ford proposal? Will it be next year, like mid, early? Just because I've just had some queries about it.
Through you, Chair, with Burnside, the community, and iwi engagement is something that, we're working through with our comms team at the moment. And at this point in time are planning to engage with stakeholders, directly affected. So the surrounding, landowners, and iwi pre-Christmas. The reason we haven't expanded to the wider community yet or, provided that them with much more information is because the other factor at play here is our design and feasibility of the project itself. So in the next week or so before Christmas, we're expecting our procurement and design processes to provide us with some more information to work with Mr. George to make an assessment on the feasibility of the project itself, at which point we'll plan in more detail what that wider community engagement looks like.
Thank you.
I think one of the points here, councillor Moynihan, is that we're not at the stage where we can do anything or tell anybody anything. So it's a pause.
Rebecca, can I ask, who are you engaging with on Māori behalf?
Through your chair, I believe to date, Pam and our project manager have met with Joe Hebrew-Smith. I'm not sure if there were any other individuals at the meeting, but that's something we can definitely find out and get back to you on.
Cool, thank you, because there's a lot of hapu there. You know, nothing against our rongoa tahu whānau, but they're not the only hapu that are in Takapau. So you need to be engaging with all of us that are actually here.
Hence the desire for that just to be a pause on that mention of the Burnside forward, because that team are simply not at the stage where they can go through a definite process. Any further question?
Just an update on what you suggested.
Which one?
From the
I'll for you, Michelle, on that one if you want. So we did receive some advice earlier this week from our regional relationships advisor, advising us that we are likely to receive confirmation and a further decision on the balance of the NIWI funding for what was in the current financial year for be rolled over into the new financial year. There was a balance that was unspent across not just Hawke's Bay, but across all of New Zealand for the NIWI affected councils. We're in a relatively good spot. We've got a program that's now being certified for the balance of the years that's still to be funded. One of the early indications is that any new funding that will be approved in the balance of the current year's NIWI funding will be at FAR plus 20%. So currently we've been working on a bespoke FAR of normal FAR plus 30. So that's got us to the 89%. Pushes our, that's all that there is next year. Basically, it pushes our program, reduces the amount we can do and extends our program, basically extends it by another 2.8 years. What we've got aiming to go out next week anyway across the region is basically a letter from all of the councils, encouraging them in terms of NZTA as well, both encouraging them bespoke FAR for the longer term, but in particular, really recognising the benefits that Hastings District Council are receiving from multi-year funding application. And that's from their Crown Infrastructures component, and basically trying to demonstrate that if you can give us certainty for a 2 or 3 year window, we can guarantee you better efficiencies in procurement and better prices overall. So that's what's coming out of Hastings from not the NZTA funding, but some separate CIP funding. So again, a real advocacy piece to make sure that we positioned well as government make those decisions in early 2025 for the 2025-2026 allocation.
Just to add to that, Chair, in early 25, we'll start thinking about the procurement of the remainder of the work, irrespective of how the money comes and our programming, just thinking well ahead so we're not up against it like we are now, where we're having to shortlist contractors and not necessarily get the best outcomes all round. So be much more prepared for 25.
As as we've previously discussed, we are still, unless there's a board decision that comes earlier in appropriation from round made earlier to the NZTA board, we will still be waiting till the 1st of July to confirm any additional bespoke fund. So
As Mr. Himmick said, we are ready, we will be ready to regardless
we'll
of
be
what.
trying our best, yeah.
Just had a more lower level question set slash statement about just in particular Wimbledon Road, and see a few comments on Facebook about the Alsthorpe Road as well, just how we're communicating those to the public, particularly in terms of Wimbledon Road. The solution does not deal with the slip above the road, so there is still residual risk of an overslip in the future, is on page 38. I just want you to talk to just how we're dealing with the fact that that's NZTA's direction, not our decision to just fix it, not look at the slip above it as well.
Chair, we're still developing our more recent communications plans. Given the change in funding perspective from NZTA, that wasn't previously something that we had to consider in our messaging to community. So at this point in time, I don't have a clear answer for you on how we're going to communicate that, but it will be incorporated into the messages with community moving forward.
We're going to get the blame, if you like, for certain decisions when in actual fact we're doing is directed by the funder.
Just to add to that, Chair, I just think we just need to be careful about how we kind of navigate that, just funding constraints and so on,
The expiry of the funding, is that pushing us to find solutions that, for instance, the Wimbledon Road, because I had that one as well. Like we have to fix it by during 2025. So yeah, are we finding the best solution, or are we just having to?
We're being directed by NZTA of the solution that we've been given is at a direction of them not looking at future resilience.
That's correct, Chair. So we're working closely with their investment advisors, and we've got constraints around level of service and the actual engineering solution that they're willing to co-fund.
They're just holding back on some of those projects. What we actually do, our accountable delivery or our no band-aids being the way along. Any further questions? Team, somebody like to move that the Transport Committee notes the Cyclone Gabrielle recovery update? I so move. Would somebody like to second? Councillor Greer, any comments? All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, team.
Great work.
Back to Mr. George and Mr. Kimberg, page 49, update on changes to traffic management rules and guidance.
So this paper today is a noting paper. There's been some changes in the operational environment with changes to the guidance that we have across the industry for temporary traffic management. The original guidance or that the industry worked to is COPTIM, which has been around for quite some time and is definitely been a big part of the reason that we've seen a lot of traffic management across our networks. There's been kind of a lot of discussion, and a new the new guidance, the New Zealand Guide to Temporary Traffic Management has come into force as of October this year, 2024. The other thing that's come in with that is that we now need to report on traffic management costs. We've actually just had a session with NZTA this morning, talking through what that reporting looks like and their expectations. There is an expectation that it will take some time to, kind of get this reporting to a place that we're all, comfortable with. We've obviously got contracts that have got, certain mechanisms in them already around how we report, and then our partners report to us. So, working through that change is something that they understand will take time, and their expectations aren't that it'll happen overnight. So I'll take the report as read and happy to answer any further questions.
Any questions, councillor Ammon?
Is it gonna save us money?
Through you, your chair, the intention is definitely to find efficiencies.
Sorry, I should have said that better. Well, you have the existing contracts and then what they have to provide for traffic management is lessened, what we've paid them for, will they give that back or will they put it into more stuff?
Through you, your chair, so essentially different contracts, obviously have different mechanisms as to how they price. A lot of the capital projects, they're specifically pricing the traffic management at the time that they're pricing the rest of the project. With our maintenance operator, it's quite different because they're going around the network and their activities are quite different in nature. With the likes of AWPTs, where we're often, kind of doing a section of road, we're working with the contractors to go, can we close that section of road for that period in time? What impacts will that have? How short is the detour? And then we can look at the cost, efficiencies that we get from that and make an informed decision on how we move forward. So that's an example of, where we will be, looking to work with them. So the maintenance contract is like have as significant impacts as quickly because they aren't often having big sites with lots and lots of traffic management, which you would have on capital projects and things like AWPT.
I'm just interested in the data reporting piece, where you've got that first Q1 report through to, what do you call it, the data portal you put it through to?
The Transport Insights.
That's it. So on the traffic management costs. Will the current quarter that we're end of December will be the next, no, end of January, end of December. How much more confidence will there be in that data? So you've rated it a 2 out of 5 for that first quarter. How quickly is the confidence in data improving?
Through you, Chair. So we've been in discussions with all of the contractors this week. They're all obviously getting this information through at the same time that we are. Some of the contractors are obviously moving a lot quicker. They want to be leaders in the space nationally. And so we are seeing some of the contractors really moving really quickly to try and be the leaders in the space. Hopefully that means that we'll have more confidence when they present it to us. So the maintenance contract, the TTM costs have never been split out as a specific cost. So we requested that they give us give us a number that they were comfortable with. Maintenance contract has a lot of overhead activities in it as well. So they were comfortable with the ballpark that they gave us. We continue to work with them, considering that we do have contractual current contractual requirements on them. We're hoping that they do give us some confidence in the numbers that they bring forward to us for this quarter. Hoping maybe that by next quarter that we actually get some, a lot more confidence in that. And then obviously as we move into new contracts, there'll be a requirement in the contract.
Interesting. Can I make a request that before the next quarter's data gets reported to that portal, that we actually get to see it? Please, that would, just in terms of no surprises, that would be great. Thank you. And isn't it interesting that whole adage of what measured gets done? If I think about the behaviour of traffic management around on the network, and we've had the whole cone debacle about cones out there and never get picked up and da-da-da-da-da. Well, if the maintenance contract didn't have anything specifically about measuring traffic management costs, no wonder. No, because actually they were not accountable for that. It was, there's a thing, we'll put a cone on it and we'll drive off. And actually there was no measurement of it. So kind of interesting. So it's going to be interesting to see what behaviour that it drives.
Great.
Thanks for them. It's further to that table. What actually is a redundant table? It's got total site inspections 930, redundant sites at. Was it?
Page 50.
Sorry,
Mr. McKinley once.
51.
For you, Madam Chair. A redundant site is a site that we're not going to fix. Sites out there, and I've had them pointed out by a lot of the councillors, they've been there for 3 years. They're not damaging, they're not inside of the main lane, but there was just smoke on the outside. If we're not going to fix it, that's a redundant site. Well, for a lot of our sites, we have the team go around, look at all of them and say, there's no money. It's not impacting traffic. When you put in, it sticks at $11 a piece and we get for a long time. So that's a lot of redundant site with less sites.
It's a remarkable Otawhara Road as an example where we always got questions from the public using that road. When are you going to fix it? When there was cones and wire and, high vis stuff. Now that there's actually probably 10 or 15 of those things you just talked about. They know it's permanent. We're not going to fix it. It's there. They're silent. Yeah. So it's relevant sites. I know that. Now I know that too. Thank you for asking. Any further questions? The team, would somebody like to note that move that we note, the Transport Committee notes the update on the traffic management rules and guidance. Councillor Berman, give a second there. Councillor Witchman, like to speak? Those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Read. And on to page 52, update on speed rule change and implications on the council network. Welcome back.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, councillors. So the same as the previous paper, this is a noting paper and another change to the environment that we operate in. The people of this paper is provide an update and implications on the land transport law setting of speed limits 2024, which has also been a very recent change to how we operate. So the rule sets out criteria, requirements and procedures to be followed by RCAs when reviewing and setting speed limits for roads within the respective jurisdictions. So as we understand, across the region, there were a number of areas where, speed limits have been changed and, in the last kind of 2 to 3 years, a number of these have had to be reversed. We're very fortunate in some aspects that there were none within our district. So that rule, although it is part of this speed rule change, is not a rule that impacts us. So we'll be talking to the other part of the rule, which is for variable speed limits around school zones. So the Central Bay District has 14 schools, and so for 300 metres outside the main gate of the schools, there are variable speed limits that are required. And so there's 2 categories of schools. There's schools within the 50k zone and there's schools that are outside of the 50k zone. And they have different criteria around the distance from the school gate that you put the variable speed signs. The speed signs can only be, for 90 minutes, in the morning and then in the afternoon. And so in the last financial year, we worked with our co-funder NZTA to purchase variable speed signs. So they're electronic speed signs. In discussions with the team, the reason that they were purchased as electronic was that they are the most efficient and visible way of making people aware that there's been a change in speed during those periods of time. And it's in line with the rest of the region and where other councils across the district also I suspect it was, through some direction from the co-funder that this was the best. And we do see them throughout the district in areas and they do definitely stick out. We do have some work to do to better understand the risks and stuff associated with implementing them. And we also need to purchase the other materials associated with implementing them. We've very recently, as of in the last week, been given direction that the low cost, low risk fund is open for submissions for this activity. So we're working through that process at this time. We're working through better understanding what those costs will be before we put in that. So we do not have to have had that activity done until July of 2026. So we have some time to work through that process. Matt, I'll take the report as read and happy to answer any question.
It's mine.
Just on your note of electronic speed signage,
Yes.
who will be responsible to put them down, of our staff, the contractor. So
Very good, Madam Chair. So So the ones I'm thinking of on the way just before the Audi there's those, yeah, so they're the ones that'll,
Permanent one.
yes.
Yeah, right, that's what they look like.
Yeah, so they'll be dormant during
Yeah, gotcha.
outside of hours and then they'll just, you know,
I thought they were mobile, yeah. And every school will have to have them.
yes, and we're still, yes. Yes, that's
Down
correct.
every school? Like Elsthorpe School at the end of a road?
We'll be working through that process. Yeah, we'll be
That'll-
working
we've
through
done
that
the
process.
prioritisation and everything, so I assume that goes through that.
We'll be better understanding the process as we work through it to understand, you know, if from what we understand, yes.
Any spares could go to the beach.
Yeah.
Yeah, Walker.
Elsthorpe Road. Elsthorpe.
Yeah, Walker,
Right at the end of the
question,
road.
please, councillor.
Yeah, we'll work through that.
That's right.
So, like we've dodged a bullet on this speed safety rule stuff where we didn't progress a couple of years ago on doing some of that speed changes work that we had talked about. And so because otherwise we would be flipping and going back and changing everything. So we actually dodged a bullet on that, which is kind of good. But it does make me think now, if this does settle down, how do we make sure that we are getting data collection across those known easy win sites on the speed where we have got speed issues? So there's been this collection of sites where we know that there are speed issues across the network, which we had hoped maybe we could do some interventions on, but it kind of wasn't a priority and we didn't necessarily have the data. And I'm not saying that this is, it might be an opportunity in that low cost, low risk application, to be honest, about what are some of the data gathering and measuring technologies that we might need to use in some of those hotspots that actually gives us the data about other places we might need to do work, and just help us get ahead of that for when we need to make some other changes.
In particular about what we, Onga and Takapo that came to us with speed concerns.
Yeah, there's quite a few on kind of the periphery of towns where there's like the 50k zone is here, but actually the neighbours and everyone knows that everyone speeds there and actually it needs to be pulled out. And there's residential areas that the 50 zone needs to be pulled out. Like there's some really logical places actually changes are required. Is there just a bit of proactive data collection that if we've got access to low cost, low risk funding application that actually could help there?
Other examples too, where it goes this, if there's 3 entrances to a village and 2 of them have a 70 and 1 of them doesn't. Sorry, 2 don't and 1 does. You know, there's no consistency in some of our speed in those areas, speed signage in those areas. Any further questions? Councillor Byrne.
While we're applying with a low cost, low risk, could we, because Waka Kotahi are taking over the speed cameras too, aren't they?
Yes.
Could we apply speed camera?
Through you, your chair.
For us.
I need to have some better look into this, but I understand that the variable speed limit signs from the brief look that I've had a look, that they actually do record speeds. So they do, like, part of them is that they have, because they have to pick up on a car coming. And so my understanding is that they actually do like record just speeds. So, you know, so they kind of show across the period when they're on what the actual speeds are. So, you know, in the areas where these variable speed signs are. And just coming back to you, Your Worship, is I understand that Kimberk is that there is a requirement for business cases to be done for any changes. So yeah, as long as we understand that and go through that process.
Mine was just similar to just sort of look at the opportunities and if we are applying for low cost, low risk. There was still quite a bit of work that we wanted to do in my power to stressing people and calming and that sort of stuff at that other end.
I think one of the things here with NZTA is that if it's got an economic purpose, that it is likely to be looked upon more favourably in a outcome. Is that
Cost benefit analysis, Chair.
And the other thing is to remember that we cut our local share of low risk as well. So that's going to limit how much we can do. Just saying, we cut that, so part of that's on it.
Any further question? Would somebody like to move that the Transport Committee notes the update on speed rule changes and implications in CHB DC networks? Report. Burn, seconded councillor Aiken. Would you like to comment? All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Very good. Thank you, team. I'm going to make my verbal update on the Regional Transport Committee very short. It'll come through in the minutes anyway. There's a couple of things, we're real focus on public transport again, at the Regional Transport Committee. The HBRC had consulted widely on changing its whole system, moving away from the historic covering everywhere with meandering loops to a bi-directional one, increased frequency, etc. And then the NLTP came out and ultimately had to redo their whole contract thinking there. So this is for Napier and Hastings, but it affects us in that the NLTP also removed our computer file from the immediate consideration. Just a heads up really that they're going to look at public-private PSGE type arrangements, partnerships for an alternative way to look at public transport. So that could open the door for us down here to have some sort of, in my head, it was sort of, maybe a partnership with, for example, Silver Fern Farms, with a bus coming from Hastings or Waipukaro, Waipawa, taking workers to an organisation like that, or indeed setting up that commuter trial ourselves as a community, a private partner from this end. One of the big changes up there again was the advertising revenue on buses and bus stops as a way to increase the revenue. Previously that has been part of the contract, so it's been done by the contractor, and the regional council, having seen the headlines this week from Auckland, I'm not sure that what happened there, but that's an option for the future for them as well. And just reiterating, we have no public transport rate here in CHB, so it's not directly affecting us. There will be changes to the total mobility scheme, which offers subsidised taxi travel for people with a permanent disability who cannot utilise any other form of transport. And we do have one provider here in Central Hawke's Bay. But it's just re-looking at who meets the eligibility criteria, reserving the right to limit resources so that it's not an endless, because you can't budget if you don't know how many times people can use it, and a maximum concession fare of $50, as well as auditing and checking of operators and their vehicles. So that's the one that we have working here. As I mentioned in the regional deals discussion, there's anything to do with this public transport in future, how Central Hawke's Bay is part of that is essential. The regional spatial planning is essential. I believe if we're going to go ahead with any sort of involvement in public transport, connecting us to the north. And just another point of interest, closure of the mill on the other side of the ranges has led to a partnership, paraphrasing, between Hastings District Council, Rangitikei Council and NZTA to bring pulp to Napier by rail instead of over the Gentilwani, which would have meant a lot of issues for that local road, as a local road. And just that got me thinking about the hundreds of tons of logs that would be on the Palmerston North to Napier railway line and off our roads. Or I know they're mostly on the highway and coming from Tararua, coastal Tararua, they're not going to be they're going to be on our roads and nowhere near the rail anyway. But there could be something there in the future. I think important for us to keep in mind with the regional road strategy. Yeah. So that was my verbal update from RTC, and the minutes will come in due course. I always think it's just nice to have what was on the top of my head at the time, rather than, because the minutes don't show some of those conversations. The. It's just a bit. Nope, I will not. Would somebody like to move that the date of the next meeting be the 26th of February, not that was changed this morning. It was originally the 27th, now the 26th of February 2025. Councillor Annan. I will second that. Any comments? Those in favour, please say aye.
Right,
I will now move into public excluded business. We. So we're going into that to talk about land transport recovery phase 2 and 3 procurement plan amendment. And this is for mainly for commercial reasons. Would somebody like to move that we move into Mayor Walker, public excluded, seconded councillor Greer. Those in favour, please say aye.
fine.
Sorry.